Hello, and welcome to today's conversation, which is part of TechAfrica News connectivity series, Spotlight Satellite, and is sponsored by SES. I'm Chris Green, Chief Editor for TechAfrica News. The Middle East has seen a flourishing data-on-demand service in the region, with its citizens enjoying optimal connectivity. However, there is a call for better and more seamless data connectivity in the region, which will help enhance the overall experience tremendously. During today's conversation, TechAfrica News, together with SES, Urudu and Mobile, will take a deep dive into the challenges the region faces in terms of data connectivity and the advanced solutions that will help further this along for the masses. I'm joined today by an exciting group of people. From SES, we have Hamid Nawad, who is General Manager, Middle East and Central Asia at SES Networks. Hamid, welcome.
Thank you, Chris.
From Urudu, we have Ahmed Al-Kindi, Department Head, Transmission Network Planning, Urudu Oman. Ahmed, welcome.
Thank you, Chris.
We also have Munib Wahad Khan, Vice President Strategy. Munib, welcome.
Thank you, Chris. Pleasure to be here.
Also from SES, we have Dipu Pillai, who is Strategy and Market Intelligent Networks for SES. Dipu, welcome.
Thanks, Chris.
We're going to start with a presentation from Dipu, which covers market trends and forecasts for MENA. So Dipu, over to you.
Okay. Thanks, Chris, and welcome everyone to this panel where we will discuss about the major connectivity trends in the region, in the Middle East and North Africa region, particularly focusing on the GCC countries. Then we would discuss on the connectivity market opportunities, the revenue opportunities for our service providers, our partners, our customers in the market. And we will also discuss about some of the challenges that we see in the market. So after this initial presentation, then my colleague Hamid and also Ahmed and Munib will be discussing on how SES together with our customer partners in the region can address some of these opportunities and challenges with the full range of managed connectivity solutions we are bringing into the market, as well as our new investments in the satellite and the ground networks that we are bringing into the market. So in this first slide, I would like to highlight the major highlighting trend, the overarching trend that is happening in the GCC market in particular. So you can see that GCC is in the forefront of the 5G adoption globally. And on the map on the left, you can see that the number of countries where the 5G networks have gone already live, and the number of countries who are planning to have the 5G networks. So according to the telegeography data, the latest data, we count almost 23 5G live networks in the Middle East and North Africa regions. And not surprisingly, almost 18 of these networks are in the GCC countries. The remaining are in Israel, and there is also one network which is kind of the latest network that is happening in the Iran market. So what does this mean? Like, I mean, we are seeing that the 4G network in the region has kind of covered almost 95% of the population. In some of the countries, it has kind of reached like 90%. And the mobile operators in the market are currently trying to kind of differentiate from the competition by increasing their 5G. And as I mentioned before, like you can see that on the chart on the right, you can see that 4G now represents almost 80% of the mobile subscribers in GCC. And in the future, in the next 5 years, there would be a rapid growth in the 5G network shown by this orange portion of the chart. So it is expected that GCC region would be the second largest region in terms of the 5G mobile subscribers, just behind North America by 2026. And 5G would be representing almost 73% of all the mobile subscribers in GCC countries by 2026. So this is the latest data from Ericsson that shows this data. But as far as the non-GCC countries are seen, like you can see that the COVID has impacted the deployment in some of the, especially the North African regions. But we expect the 5G adoption to pick up later this year or beginning next year, so that some of these countries, especially like the countries where the 5G has already been trialed, will also join this bandwagon. So what does this means for the mobile network operators? So this is also an interesting chart which shows the average mobile data consumption per person per subscriber in different regions. So here again, you can see that GCC with almost 18.4 gigabyte per month usage, it has well above, like, I mean, even the advanced regions like Western Europe, North America and all. And just India is kind of behind GCC with the 14.6 gigabyte usage. And we expect that this trend is expected to continue in the future. You can see that GCC kind of remaining on the top of the mobile data usage across all the regions. And almost 80% of this data traffic growth would be carried over 5G. In addition to this enhanced mobile broadband services that we expect to see as an initial use cases of 5G, we would also be seeing more and more enterprise services that are brought by the mobile network operators to monetize the 5G. So that trend is also we are seeing in the market. So what does this means for, like, I mean, SES as a satellite operator? So SES right from the beginning, we have been taking a leadership role in the 5G ecosystem. So we are kind of putting our efforts in multiple fronts so that we kind of remain a relevant player in the 5G, and we are also helping our customers to kind of migrate to 5G networks and monetize the 5G opportunities. So we have been kind of involved in the over-there demos, validating the key technologies for making sure that satellite is truly integrated into the 5G and it will be a true plug and play system. So we have already conducted live demos, the 5G backhaul demos in the European market already. Then, as I mentioned before, like, I mean, we are also making massive investments in our satellite and our ground infrastructure to support new capabilities and requirements. So Hamid would be discussing more on our next generation medium earth orbit satellites constellation mPOWER that would be bringing these massive capabilities to support these 5G networks. Then we are also adopting these 5G networks into our own systems so that we can also leverage on this network function virtualizations, software defined networks, adaptive resource control, all these 5G enabled network technologies which will increase our efficiencies and also kind of make satellite more economical to the end user. So for example, we have already been kind of implementing our ground systems for mPOWER, adopting some of these technologies. Then finally, we are also kind of developing our own products and services portfolio to support these 5G solutions. So cellular backhaul supporting 5G, as I mentioned before, like, I mean, we have already conducted some demos. We are also developing enterprise products to cater to these markets. And for those who have been to the GCC countries in the past few years, would have come across these logos at least once in representing the strategic vision of the respective country markets. So what does this actually means? This actually means that majority of the GCC nations, the governments have identified that they have been traditionally more oil dependent economies, and because of the oil price volatility and the anticipation of a peak oil, they are trying to kind of diversify their economy and invest into kind of a diverse sectors like healthcare, education, recreation, tourism, and also an underlying theme across all these strategic visions have been kind of um, a digital transformation in the country, like adopting more digital technologies in all these sectors. So we would see that there is an incentives for the mobile operators and the service and the telecom service providers in these countries to kind of develop to invest on the new technologies as well as kind of increase their capacity throughput to kind of provide solutions for these new sector investments, provide new connectivity solutions for these new sector investments in the enterprise, in the mobile market and all. So this would be having a tremendous impact in the economy in the future, and we would see that the connectivity demand would also grow kind of proportionately in many of these countries, and we already kind of anticipating some of this demand coming from our customers in the region. And along with this strategic ambitions, we also see that the GCC countries are going to kind of host some of the key events in the next 3 to 4 years. So the FIFA Qatar World Cup is one of the major event that is going to happen in 2022. The UAE Expo that is happening now, like I mean, that is also another major event. So these kind of events would be also kind of an upcoming test for the voice and the data networks for the mobile operators. So, for example, in case of Qatar, with nearly 3 million people, we would see that almost 1.7 million people, that is almost 60% of the population, would be visiting Qatar during the tournament, and with more than 500,000 visitors on busiest days. So we see an opportunity to provide SATCOM connectivity that can augment this network capacity at stadiums, airports, and other points of high traffic. And this has already been projected by some of our customers in the market to kind of cater to this need for increasing data traffic demand during these events. And let's now talk about what's happening in the satellite industry as a whole. So as connectivity industry players, we would be all hearing about a lot of constellations that are being announced, a lot of capacity that is being brought into the market. So this is kind of a high level representation of what lies ahead of us in the future. So you can see that there is a tremendous increase in the overall satellite capacity globally across all the regions that is happening, that is shown by these bar graphs between the next 5 years. And it is expected that the capacity is expected to grow almost 19 times, from just 2 terabytes to more than close to 40 terabytes in the next 9 years. And one of the things you can notice here is that even though the regional capacity growth is growing at a much higher pace, the capacity addition that is happening at a particular hotspot or over a point in a region, that is going to be limited because of the sport beam architecture and the uniform capacity distribution of many of these constellations. So here actually we are going to play an important role, like mPOWERs, with our ability to place the capacity exactly where it is needed and to also scale the capacity where, according to the market demand. So that is going to be a differentiator, and I could say that all capacities are not created equal, and these kind of abilities to serve the hotspot demands according to the customer's need, that is going to be a differentiator going forward. And this slide, let's now talk about how's the market opportunities developing in MENA, in the MENA market. So as I mentioned above, before, like I mean, the 5G opportunities are going to be a big market opportunities, especially in the GCC countries. And you can see that the mobile backhaul over satellite that is going to grow almost 3 times in the MENA market in the next 8 years. And we see that in the GCC countries, especially, there would be a lot of demand for 5G, but you can also see that 4G is also going to play a major role, especially in the rural regions, because 5G adoption is going to come first in the urban areas and pushing the 4G more to the rural areas. And we see, there would be also good opportunities for 4G growth, also, especially in the rural areas in the MENA market. And the other trend that we are seeing in the market is that there is an increased demand for the managed backhaul services. This is in line with what we see from the mobile operators who are outsourcing their OPEX, outsourcing their tower operations to the other third-party operators like the tower operators, and also that they can focus more on the network services and the value-added services, and they can less focus on less focus on their ground operations, as well as reduce the capex investments needed to bring intensify the network. So we would see that the mobile operators in the market would be seeking more like a partner who can extend their networks to the remote regions where the terrestrial networks can reach, rather than somebody who can just sell capacity. In fact, we have been providing the managed end-to-end backhaul solutions in the market globally, and also in the MECA market. So we see this as a big opportunity for us with our managed service capabilities to tap into this big backhaul market. The other major services service revenue growth that we see is in the enterprise sector. So here we see there's a good demand that is going to come from the social inclusion. So this is especially true for countries like Saudi, Oman, where there are sparsely populated areas which are not served by the terrestrial means, and the governments wants to extend their networks to these regions, and satellites to play a major role in these regions. And COVID has also accelerated the need for bringing more connectivity to the unconnected people, because the governments have realized that in order to keep the economy ticking during this pandemic, they have to keep the people more connected, so that the activities, the work from home, the learn from home, all these activities can keep on going. And the second major sector is obviously, most of these GCC countries in this region are depending on the oil and gas economy, and we would see an increasing demand for the energy market. In fact, as I said before, the oil price decline and all have affected this market in the past few years. But now the trend that we see is more towards the oil and gas companies investing more towards moving towards a digital oil field, investing more on the cloud, Internet of Things technologies. And here our low latency, high throughput connectivity, that is going to play an important role, because this would be replacing many of these human efforts needed for these operations, and bringing in OPEX efficiencies needed for the oil and gas companies to operate in these markets. And finally, the broadband market. So here we see that a lot of demand is going to be generated, as you can see, from the hotspot market rather than the direct to premise market. So this is a trend that we see, especially in the emerging regions. So I would say this is more true for the non-GCC market in the MECA region, where we see that where the high equipment costs have been a barrier for the some of the customers to onboard into the satellite connectivity, these new hotspot solutions, where if you have a smartphone, you can access the satellite connectivity, that is going to address this market a lot. So we would see this hotspot market taking up in many of these emerging countries in the MECA regions, I would say. So I think that brings an end to my presentations. So to conclude, I would say there is big opportunities in the market, especially in the 5G adoption, in the GCC market, and also kind of 4G adoption that is going to happen in the non-GCC markets and also in the rural areas. Then there is also kind of demand that we see in the social inclusion initiatives, as well as because of the new events that are coming into these markets, like the Qatar World Cup, and we also see some of the demand for connecting the islands and kind of newly developed regions in this market. Like, I mean, in Qatar, we have a demand for connecting the outer islands with our O3B connectivity. So we would see, even though the number of sites won't grow much, we would see an increasing the throughput demand per site in this region. So here also, like, I mean, our solution is kind of, we are developing our solutions in such a way that we can cater to this market by providing like multiple gigabit, up to multiple gigabit links capacity in a scalable manner. But the challenges for satellites, like, I mean, the affordability that is not that particular in the GCC market, but mostly in the non-GCC Middle East and Central Asia market. So that have to be addressed when satellite solutions are going to be kind of delivering the connectivity solutions. And also we have to kind of also meet the expectations of the increasing throughput demand and the pricing expectations from the market. So yeah. So I would now hand over to Chris to lead the panel discussions. Thanks.
Yeah, many thanks for that, Deepu, for your presentation and all that information. Yeah, this is very informative. Although the Middle East is and has been fairly well served in terms of connectivity and internet penetration, as we said earlier, there are still areas where it can be improved and where increased data throughput will enable operators to increase profitability. I mean, there are a number of stats on Deepu's presentation that sort of jumped out. 5G will represent 73% of mobile subs by 2026. That's a significant increase. 80% of data will be over 5G around that time as well. But one probably above all, in that broadband service revenues just from hotspots alone, which in 2021 are forecast to be, I think it was 124 million, Deepu, by 2029 will have grown to 4,363 million. That's dramatic growth, and that's just from hotspots alone. Hamid, if I could start with you. SES's vast experience, a wide network, and you're launching O3B mPOWER. It's clearly significant for the region. Is this part of SES strategy to enable service providers such as Ooredoo and others to grow their revenues?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. You can hear me well?
Yes, you're fine.
Okay, great. So thank you very much, Deepu, and thanks to my fellow panelists. I believe we would be looking forward to hearing from them more because, see, all of this boils down to the strategies that mobile network operators have to extend their services and bring on more services, more value to their customers. So, see, what has been our role? I will, go directly there. We being satellite operators, we had a decision to make right at the beginning when we brought in the medium Earth orbit satellites. So you see, while geo satellites provide excellent coverage, but most of the use cases related to data require low latency and higher throughput. So when we launched the first commercial communication satellite in medium Earth orbit, this was actually done by O3B, and then we're moving on, and this was in 2013. And moving on in 2016, SES fully acquired O3B networks. And here is where You see, in 2014, I would say our decision point was to either go directly to the end user and serve them. And these were the end users, which we called, the other 3 billion, the other 3 billion population of the world, which did not have reliable, or which either did not have reliable internet or no internet at all. So we were the only satellite operator with commercial services on medium Earth orbit, and so we had to decide either we go directly or to the mobile network operators. And right away, it was I would say a very sane and a simple decision to make, because mobile network operators are the ones who have the infrastructure, processes, and people in place to actually provide the service and collect the revenues and to enhance the value of their delivery, okay, to the end users, and to actually enhance the customer experience. And that's so see, with this, we what we were able to do with our O3B service, that we created, I would say, multi-tenant, multi-operator point of presence, uh, in which uh, an aggregate traffic could actually reach there, and this is transported over the O3B constellation, and then reaches to the packet core or the data centers of the mobile network operators. And as I see, and I would say Ahmed and Munib are going to confirm it to me, that for mobile network operators, really the KPIs is about meeting the performance of the applications and the reliability. And it is really not much of the concern that whether the data is transported over geo, MEO, or LEO, as far as or even on microwave or on fiber. So it's all about meeting the KPIs, and then the network should be scalable in order to support 5G, which we were discussing, and most importantly, uh, it's a very challenging business case which needs to be closed. So I would share with you all that we really are very pleased that with MEO, we have been able to expand the size of the satellite addressable market. And with the innovation of O3B mPOWER, our mission is really to go mainstream. We actually have nearly entered that mainstream where the fiber is there, but it is not that reliable. I would say it's not a fully protected fiber wherever such opportunities arrive. And there is where we have been able to compete on performance, most definitely beat the alternatives on reliability, because satellite is more reliable, and then also compete, I would say, on the value. I would not say price, but yes, if you take it in the overall context, it would be the price as well. So I will give you an example, and very quickly, I'm aware that we are taking a lot of time. I would like really Ahmed and Munib to come in and pitch in and get, share with us their side of the story. So see, what we I will just give you an example of Jazz in Pakistan, which is beyond. It is more than 60 million subscribers. So what we were able to do was to actually uh, take out the fiscal space from their budget for the 2G connectivity, and make it possible for them to launch 4G in that area, specifically in the coastal town of Gawadar, which is a deep. Why I'm taking this name, because I think both of my panelists are aware of it, aware of this town. This is the deep sea port of China, China Pakistan Economic Corridor, in fact. So, and it's part of One Belt One Road initiatives. Gwadar used to be part of Oman at a certain point in time, so then it was taken by Pakistan. And because I believe Mureeb understands it as well, because I believe he is aware of it. Then, see, coming to our solution, so essentially with the optimization that we did using all the IP optimization to carrier and carrier to using higher order modulation and coding supported on satellite, we were able to free up the budget for launch of 4G services, which we achieved through our medium Earth orbit service. So the Gwadar site is now backhauling around more than 2 gigabits of aggregated traffic from 16 eNode Bs, 16 BTSs, and a few Node Bs for 3G traffic, and is transported over O3B constellation to the gateway in Karachi, Pakistan. From there onwards, fiber connects to the EPC or the BSC, etc. of JAS. So I will be really, I mean, I would say that what we've been able to actually do here is to delay the fully protected fiber reach there. We were and we were able to bring new revenue stream for jazz, which would never exist or would have actually delayed till the time fully protected fiber came. And uh, I can just share with you a very rough number, I would say, a very ballpark figure, that it is more than $10 million of new revenue that was created by this initiative. Uh, I mean, annually, more than that. So, see, I would say, uh, I mean, as they say, proof is in the pudding. So, I mean, here we are. So, I would now actually, you see, essentially, we played the key role of bringing from TRXS to TCO and the lowest TCO possible, and facilitating the creation of new revenue streams.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it's clear from, sorry, Hamid, it's clear from sort of what you're saying that and examples that you've actually given, that you've sort of put the infrastructure in place. Ahmed, if I can sort of bring you in here, I mean, do you agree with what Hamid is sort of turning around and saying in terms of the infrastructure, in terms of the satellite side, is in place, and it's now up to the operators to develop this further? So it's your experience, a relationship on this, and also if you see increased data traffic as a means to increase revenues for Urudu.
Yes, obviously, if we have a good satellite communication that can interconnect the sites and extend the reach to your customers, obviously, then you will realize that the customers will be more satisfied to use the service and be able to connect. Here in Oman, for example, as you are aware, the country has a diverse nature, mountainous places, desert locations. Sites are very remote in nature, and it becomes very difficult, really, for our customers to make a call. At the moment, all what we are providing is just 2G and a very primitive 3G services using SES satellite service. And usually you get a lot of complaints that things are changing. We need to have a proper internet access with high speed at 4G. Soon they will be coming asking even for 5G connectivity. Therefore, as operators, we are always striving to find what is there in the market that it can provide high throughput, and low latency services that can provide the services to the customers and satisfy their requirements and needs. Hamid mentioned about the quality and the KPIs that you need to reach for the applications, which is rightfully true. And for instance, if you take video streaming, I mean, if you are using a satellite, which is a geostationary satellite, providing very limited throughput and the latency that you are having, obviously you'll not be able to meet up the requirements that you need. We have experienced this during the COVID period, when we started connecting some of the schools and some of the remote villages using the VSAT services. Well, customers were never satisfied. It was always a complaint that the services offered over your system or your satellite system is not satisfactory. However, going to the new generation of satellites of using either MEOs or LEOs, obviously we'll sort out and solve these issues and these problems, because we know that the lower the satellite and closer is to the Earth, the lower the latency will be. And because you have a constellation of multiple satellites, from few tens in the MEOs to maybe possibly thousands of satellites in the LEOs, then that gives you the leverage of reusing the frequencies and having more bandwidth that can be provided to provide the necessary throughput to the customers. So yeah, as rightfully said, that there are opportunities, but these opportunities, of course, as operators, we always need to make sure that they provide a balance between the technicality requirements as well as the economical and financial and feasibility of providing those services. Because obviously it's something when a service is going to cost operators so much money to provide, it's going to be very difficult then to have a clear business case that it can to adopt that technology. It is true that you're providing the coverage and you're giving the service to the customers, but of course at the end of the day you need to balance the equation, having a technicality that you can provide the capacities as well as being cost effective to provide that service.
Yeah, I think that's clear, and I agree with what you said. It's got to be cost effective, otherwise there is no point in actually sort of doing that. Manib, if I can sort of bring you in now as well. From your own perspective, what are your thoughts on Deepu's presentation and the information that Deepu provided, and also with Hamid's comments and information as well as the example he gave? So do you see ultimately increased data traffic as a means to increase revenues in a cost-effective manner?
Yeah. So thank you very much, Chris. I think thanks to Deepu for sharing a very insightful presentation. I think there are no two words about it that as we improve the customer experience, the monetization potential that operators have, it definitely increases. But I think we also need to look at the three accessibility mediums of mobile broadband, fixed, and satellite as probably complementary and not competing with each other, because depending on the examples that Hamid gave for a certain geography, for a certain region, every country has a certain geographic terrain that basically needs to be covered. And what I have seen is not only specific to the regions, but in other geographies also, usually it has been a combination of the three access mediums that I just mentioned. And will this be able to, let's say, move the needle for the operators? In my personal opinion, I think yes, because as we evolve in terms of the network technologies, we always need to remember that there are three basic things that every operator is trying to do. The first one is the core revenues are stagnating. So operators are looking at basically new revenue streams in both adjacent as well as new businesses. Number two is with a lot of investment that is required for 5G as compared to the previous technologies, every operator focus currently, at least in the region, and I'm sure in other parts of the world, is monetization of 5G. It's not about putting the infrastructure there, but people, the moment they go and purchase the 5G compatible handsets, it means the stats that Deepu showed of people having access to 5G. Is going to be a combination of both the coverage and people having 5G compatible handsets also. Yes. And third and most important is, I think Hamid hinted at that, satellite broadband or 5G, they are also going to be enablers for emerging technologies, the future use cases that are coming. We keep hearing the buzzwords of artificial intelligence, AR, VR, machine learning, and other things, which are not only important, let's say, for consumer segment, but much, much more important, for the enterprise segment, in specific verticals. So I think satellite, mobile broadband, specifically 5G, and I would even say, the evolution of fixed broadband is going to be very, very important, as an enabler for this, because these technologies basically are built on the premise of real time, data availability, so that we could run real time operations also, and in order to do so, the only KPI I can think of, and which are most important to the customer, that is the ultimate stakeholder we all are serving, are basically the download speed, which will basically improve with the evolution of technology. Number two is upload speed, that will also improve, with the evolution of technology. And last but not the least is basically latency, depending on application to application, that will improve, as 5G evolves. In my personal opinion, there is going to be a phase 2 of 5G also, which is going to be a phase which is going to be the key for enterprise customers. And that is the phase where there will be a lot of consensus on standards, as far as latency is concerned specifically. So I think, let's say, in terms of being complementary technologies, I think they provide a lot of potential, for more value extraction for operators going forward. And the last point from my side is, Deepu mentioned on one slide, basically, most of the GCC countries working on a strategic long-term plan. As far as Saudi Arabia is concerned, Saudi Arabia is working on a Vision 2030, which basically has three key pillars. The first one is about a vibrant society. So you must be hearing a lot about the changes that are coming in Saudi Arabia, as a country. The second pillar basically is about a thriving economy. And when I say economy, going forward, the kind of technologies we are talking about, we mean a digital economy, economy where basically things are real time, economy where things can be accessed, even e-government can be accessed through digital channels. And last but not the least is, the most important pillar, in my personal opinion, is the pillar of ambitious nation. This basically is about the diversification of Saudi's economy, which traditionally has been dependent on oil. So, in order to move away from that, I think technology, satellite, broadband, mobile broadband, I think it is a key enabler. And, as we see, because, I see this on the ground, the implementation of this Vision 2030, and day in and day out, I feel proud, being associated with the technology sector, and the amount of contribution or enablement the technology is providing, to ensure that the economy is diversified, as per the objectives of the Vision 2030.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very valid point, Munib. I mean, I'd like to come back to you a little bit later on the Vision 2030 for Saudi. But one point I would like to ask both you and Ahmed, you first, Munib, because obviously you're the operators, you've sort of got to deliver this. But as you've both said, it's got to be done in a cost-effective manner. And on the presentation, and I raised the point as well, so broadband revenues showing a dramatic growth from 2021 up to 2029. So do you think, based upon what you said, and I hear exactly what you're saying, it's not just satellite, it's got to come from all different areas, but SES seem to be putting some of the infrastructure in place to give this a kickstart. So Munib, would you say that can be achievable in Saudi, this dramatic growth in revenues coming through in a cost-effective manner?
I think it is achievable. Could be challenging, but I think the advantage that the region and specifically GCC has is the purchasing power of the end users. So I think whether it is a CPE, customer premises equipment for satellite broadband, or whether it's any device to today access 5G or tomorrow probably 6G. I think from a demand side, I think the affordability is not a problem. So you asked me about being able to achieve the revenues. So it is important to look at it from the supply and demand side. So from demand side, basically affordability, I think, should not be a problem in this region. I think the challenge is going to be coverage. Of course, mobile broadband and fixed broadband has limitations, and this is where satellite broadband basically complements. And going forward, I think the contribution satellite broadband will have amongst the three technology will definitely increase. Now, if I look at the supply side, I think all the long-term plans of the GCC countries that we looked at, I think with all the governments actually, supporting this technology enablement, the supply side challenges, let's say, are also, I would say, in a manageable range. Challenges are always there, whether they are at a company level or a country level. But I think based on the progress that we see, we can confidently say that the traffic that is exponentially growing till 2029, it's not something on paper only. I think probably it is something that can be achieved uh, based on the efforts that are being put by stakeholders both on the supply and demand side.
Yeah, I mean, Minib, I have to like the fact that you've already brought into the equation 6G when 5G has hardly got started, really. But it's this industry; it's what we have to sort of look at sort of going forward. Ahmed, if I can ask you the sort of same question as well, how do you see this happening based upon your experience in Oman? And obviously, you were the one that said about it; it needs to be done in a cost-effective manner. So, do you see this these, I wouldn't call it targets, but these sort of forecast being achieved in Oman in a cost-effective manner?
You're on mute, Ahmed.
Sorry. Thank you very much for the question again. Yes, here in Oman, we are of course also determined to achieve and get aligned with our vision of 2040, and big part of it is related to improving the different economical sectors and getting them to be on the top. Obviously, the driver for any future would be having the right platform, the right technology. 5G already is there. It is emerging very fast. We are seeing a lot of customers moving their handsets towards 5G. Obviously, we will see more and more growth in this regards, and therefore we see that there will be a lot of requirements coming up. Even if we're getting some queries from companies, enterprise, for example, to have some solutions based on 5G. For instance, the oil sector are very eager to have some technologies that would support their operations in the field. Most of the oil operations is in the desert area, where it's very difficult to provide any means of normal terrestrial communication. And therefore, we see that having technologies based on or relying on satellite services that can provide the 5G services and whatever technology is associated to the fourth industrial revolution, including like big data, clouds, drone operations. These services all require a huge throughput of data. They are hungry data applications, and obviously these sectors they want to make sure that they have a cutting edge technology to improve their services. And if there's no strong platform to do that, then obviously they will not be able to do it. So there's a heavy reliance on the opcos in the region, in Oman, that we have to have the latest technologies based on 5G, and the backhauling should be there to provide the capacities and the throughputs that are needed for these services. So obviously we need then to make sure that we empower our network and have and make sure that we are ready to serve those customers effectively. So we are building our network gradually and slowly, just to make sure that we are meeting the demands. We also always like to hear to our customers, to understand their requirements, to understand their needs, in order to be able to meet up their requirements and needs.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you for that, Ahmed. Yeah, I'm sure that what you said is the way forward that's going to work for you. Hamid, if I can come back to you for a moment, because it's clear that there's an opportunity here for a number of innovative services that follow the launch of O3b mPOWER, enabling this increase in data traffic. How confident are you with regards to the public's trust in the services, given then that in this region, there are a number of countries that don't like or even accept their users' data being outside the geographic boundaries of that particular country? Do you see this as being an issue as we go forward?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I mean, before I actually respond to your question, I think I must, you know, maybe just capture what insights our friends have given. I think Munib gave a very, I mean, shared key insights on the requirements. And interestingly, I think this is a very good segregation of mobile broadband and fixed broadband. I think this is very very specific to reaching to the end customer actually. So and again, Ahmed, I think he mentioned again the enterprise needs as well, which is definitely and certain applications which require satellite and the challenges associated with these. So see, as we see it, in case of mobile broadband as well as fixed broadband, satellites have a role to play. And I must share it with my co-panelists that yes, SCS is at the moment the only satellite operator having commercial operations in both the geostationary Earth orbit as well as MEO orbit, medium Earth orbit as well. So that means uh, we can provide and we are providing, like in case of Ooredoo Oman, we are providing uh, satellite network or the capacity or the bandwidth which is enabling not only the 2G and some in some cases 3G backhaul, but also enabling Ooredoo Oman to reach to certain customers, enterprise customers through to those through the VSAT network. Now, what will help would be once we have this medium Earth orbit satellite connectivity delivered to Ooredoo, it would enable them to actually deliver the services to the satisfaction of the customers which are struggling with the kind of service on the geostationary satellite. So that is that. That having said, now coming to your point, Chris. See, with O3b, we had some limitations on the number of gateways, uh, and and hence, uh, countries like Saudi and Oman both, they do require certain data sovereignty, which means the gateway of the satellite cannot be outside the country. So with O3b mPOWER, O3b mPOWER will continue to be, actually provide the same. The mission is the same. The addition being more throughput per terminal, uh, more coverage, more focused beams, and an in-country gateway, which can either be an in-country gateway by owned by a service provider, or it could be a customer's own gateway. For example, in case of Saudi, it could be a Saudi in-country gateway, and it could be a mobile mPOWER gateway as well. Similar situation can be with Oman and or specifically Ooredoo Oman. So I believe this is one of the key differentiator from from all the other non-geostationary Earth orbit constellations, because I think Deepu also addressed during the presentation that there have been a lot of interest lately, and there have been in the non-geo satellite ventures. And I would also share with you that since 2015, there has been more than 500 ventures. Few of them startups, a few of them are industry icons, I would say, or the giants, etc. From the technology industry, but not they were not in the satellites, and then they came into satellites as well. And I would say the amount of investment that has been attracted towards satellite is 20-fold. It's around 17 billion dollars of investment in the last, I mean, less than, and this was versus $1 billion that were invested cumulatively over the prior decade. So in the last 5 to 6 years, there has been 24 times, 20 times more investment that has come in. So see, all of this capacity, in my opinion, is going to grow the industry, serve the customers. There will be more connectivity solutions. But again, it's very important to understand that with SES, we had the first mover advantage in the sense that we actually, uh, experienced the challenges of integration with the mobile networks or the GSM gear, etc. We went through all those teething issues, and now we are fully set, I would say, for the next level, which is the Empower.
Okay,
Yeah.
I mean, I think you certainly answered my question there, I mean, but also you've brought up something of interesting as well that I want to ask Ahmed about sort of first, in that obviously the satellite has a lot of processing power that it has sort of on board as such, and you've mentioned or Hamid mentioned about sort of terminals and gateways, and that almost any small remote terminal can be used as a gateway. So how easy is it going to be for MNOs such as Ooredoo to implement this, especially when the research on Deepu's presentation showed that hotspots show far more growth than direct to premises? So is this a challenge for you to do, Ahmed? How do you see this working for you?
I think this can be considered as part of the rollout of your network. So obviously there would be some changes and tweaks that you need to do here and there. So these should be taken into consideration in the planning and the design. And while we are dealing with our partners, whether from the mobile suppliers or from the satellite suppliers, we will need to sit together and come to understand what are the different tweaks and requirements that we need to take into consideration to make sure that we are able to provide the service to the required KPIs, and making sure that this service is provided to the customers to make them satisfied and not having any issues in it. So as I said, at the end of the day, it's like a win-win situation. We all need to sit together, whether it's a satellite operator, whether us as an OPCO, or as our other partners who are working together. We need to sit in a table to just identify the different requirements that are needed for this, see the effective solution that would be required to achieve this, and get it implemented.
Okay, yeah, it's I think that's sort of clear from your viewpoint. I mean, Munib, if I can sort of bring you in now as well, and although I'll ask for sort of your opinion on the terminal side, but I also want to sort of jump back to when you said about sort of Saudi Vision sort of 2030 and sort of very aware we're sort of getting a sort of bit tight on time now as well. How easy do you think it's going to be to launch services in the country, such as 5G, such as using the terminals and the gateway, as I said, especially as there's some technology shared between mPOWER and 5G, and some of this is effectively plug and play, because obviously this plays into what you were saying earlier about the Saudi Vision sort of 2030 and developing different areas within the country. So how do you see that working out all together?
Yeah, so I think as far as the terminals working as gateway is concerned, I will just give a very brief reply. In my opinion, it is futile to fight against technology evolution. You all you can do is you can delay it.
Yeah.
You can delay the adoption, but you can never, let's say, you can never stop it, from coming in the hands of the users, in the hand of all stakeholders. And the stat that Hamid mentioned, 500 plus ventures. I am pretty sure this 500 plus ventures, have, if not a couple of 100 billions, they have a couple of tens of billions of dollars behind them. So I think it's only a matter of time that this challenge or concern about, let's say, the data privacy, or let's say, the boundary, the geography within which the data should be accessible. I think it's only a matter of time that I think this will be history. To your second question about Vision 2030, I think it is definitely it is not going to be easy, for any country, because whenever you have a big problem, usually it is very important to break it into small steps, and uh, basically break it down into smaller chunks, and take baby steps to solving that problem. So I think it is going to take teamwork from all stakeholders involved. For any country, it has to be the government, it has to be the regulators.
Mm.
I would not say the operators. I would say it has to be the ICT players. I basically mean not only licensees. I actually mean, system integrators, app developers, satellite operators, who basically cover that particular geography, as part of their coverage. So I think everybody will basically need to give and take to make sure that the end users in that particular country can unlock unlimited possibilities. But I think the example that Hamid gave, very similar to that. What is unique to Saudi is Saudi Arabia is basically building a lot of new cities from scratch.
Yeah.
And there are very choices are very clear. Either basically you can wait for, let's say, fixed connectivity to be taken there. And this is something that I think Deepu hinted at. The entire region, especially developed markets and eventually developing and emerging markets also, everybody is moving towards how to free up cash for the operators, so that we can meet the appetite of the end users. And the business models that are being considered and implemented are, let's say, for mobile towers, towerco; for fixed broadband, infraco. And I will not be surprised that in 12 to 18 months, if I see the definition of infraco being broadened, not only in GCC, but in other parts of the world also, where probably it has the towers also, it has the fixed infrastructure, and it has satellite also. So all you need to do is, whether you are a startup based out of Saudi Arabia, based in anywhere in GCC, based out of Silicon Valley, you want to tap the potential that Saudi Arabia offers. probably infrastructure and capex investment is the last thing that you need to worry, because everybody needs to expose their infrastructure, so it is easy for players to come plug and play. The more players that come and plug and play to your natural infrastructure, the more at an accelerated pace you are basically going to unlock value, not only for the players, but also provide the latest product and services to the end users in the country.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Munib. I mean, and also your comment about we can't buck the technology or not go with it, because history shows that companies that sort of try to do that, or organizations that sort of try to do that, end up losing out. So we have to sort of work with it and move this forward. We need to sort of move to the closing statements, as we're sort of getting very low on time. Munib and Ahmed, if I sort of ask you both, Munib first, what sort of changes do you expect your consumers to see as a result of this this technology change over the coming years? If you can be sort of reasonably brief about it. Munib first.
Yeah, so I think one thing from a consumer side that is going to go up is, or that is going to expect exponentially grow, is basically ownership of multiple devices. And, surprisingly, those multiple devices might not be running on the same access technology. Depending on, where you access them, I think that is going to change. So I think multi-device ownership is number one. Number two is, and probably, the most important one, consumer don't care, what is the technology in the background, mobile, fixed or satellite. They are basically, all they are worried about is user experience. And trust me, it is not only telecom, but every industry, FMCG, healthcare, hospitality, the end game is that the competition based on portfolio and pricing is not sustainable going forward. The only thing that is sustainable going forward is competition based on end-to-end customer experience. That end-to-end customer experience can never be provided by a single element, whether it is a terminal, whether it is a form factor of a device, or whether basically it is an access technology.
Yes, you're very right. I agree totally there. Ahmed, from your viewpoint?
I tend to agree with what Munib has said, is that customer experience is the foremost thing. Actually, the customer experience would be, we can just subdivide into subcategories. The customer really cares that he can make a call anywhere, he can reach his. So that brings us to the coverage. The operator who has the best coverage, he will be always the favorable one to the customers. Then the second part would be the throughput, how much he can offer. Because everything now is as we can see is hungry data. So the operator who can provide higher throughputs would always have a better preference to the customers. And then the third element is the latency. As we can see, especially in the gaming area, youngsters always demand for very low latency, because they want to play their games and on their consoles, and that's an important factor to customers, or most of the customers who have specific demands, particularly in gaming. Or when it comes to business, then the different requirements, applications and tools that are being used by the enterprise. And then the other factor is the pricing. Of course, once you have all these in place and your price is reasonable, then customers wouldn't mind to pay if it's just a fraction less, plus or minus, just as long as he is satisfied with the three elements that I have mentioned: the coverage, the latency, and the throughput. So the pricing element usually is not a key factor that would make the customer move from one opco to another opco. It is once he has these three elements covered, then he will compare between what he's getting from operator X, from operator Y, and he will make his choice at that point of time.
I agree with that. Same as I agree with many. But I think you've sort of both been very accurate with your observations there. Hamid, if I can ask you to sort of sum up again quite briefly, because we're now overrunning from an SES perspective.
So it is really about what I hear both of my friends. It's about availability of affordable high speed data network. So, and we have seen that uh, GCC Arab states have continued to invest in the technology. We're seeing Ooredoo, Etisalat, STC, Mobile, Zan. They've all stepped up in their investments in coverage and coverage expansion to bring 5G to more users. Why we all say 5G? It's not about 5G as a technology. It's all about the applications, and it's all about the user experience that our friends are talking about. So, as the only multi-orbit provider, SCS has proven over the period of time that it is we are also absolutely centered around, I would say, the customer experience. And here is where we have actually see from the principle of partnering together with MNOs to distribute the bandwidth that we are deploying over satellite. So it's I would say it's like sharing our bread and butter. So it is in our interest to and I believe it's in as we as Muni rightly pointed out, let's work as a team. It is really a teamwork. It is really about all stakeholders getting together and you know uh, building and integrating this whole environment into a true ecosystem which can deliver the kind of customer experience that we all are uh, focused on.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's all I can
No,
say. Yeah.
I think that's fine, Hamid, and I think we all agree with your viewpoints on that. It's ultimately it's the customer experience that's important. I'd like to thank all who have contributed today: Hamid and Deepu from SES, Ahmed from Arudu, and Manib for their valuable insights into how we can improve data connectivity across MENA and the challenges that are faced. It's clear there is considerable appetite from all involved to achieve this, especially in a cost-effective manner. And I'm sure that all service providers can look forward to increased service revenues in the coming years. I'm Chris Green for TechAfrica News. You can find out further information on our website, techafricanews.com.
This might not seem like the time for innovation. Our world faces urgent challenges needing urgent solutions, but this is exactly the time to take a breath, look at what's coming, and adapt. It's time to be disruptive amidst all this disruption. Innovators will emerge as leaders, and at SES we've got a proven track record in innovation. Our O3b MEO constellation is the industry's only broadband NGSO system, and now we're launching O3b mPOWER, and it's turning this moment into momentum. We've developed the most exciting, the most scalable, the most high-performance system that we can in order to solve the problems that you face on a daily basis with your customers. This next generation innovation propels us forward with exponential increases in scale, performance, and flexibility to help you transcend future demand. We're reimagining what's next, and we're doing it together with you.